So in this part, which is part 2 of the creating the stacked proportional circular area chart in Chart.js 4, we're going to start creating the plugin and prepare everything. So we're going to scroll down here, and after the option for the comma, we're going to say plugins, and then we can say here proportional area, stacked chart or something like that. I'll call it a stacked pie. Very simple. You can give it any name you want. Then what I'm going to say here, stack pie plugin block. And I'm going to say a constant stack pie will be an ID of stack pie. And then what we want to do is would we like to draw this, because I'm going to adjust or manipulate the positioning of this part. I want to make sure that we have the data adjusted before we draw it. So we're going to say before data sets draw, and then we can just say here chart arcs and plugin options, and I'll just put in here plugins. Then what we're going to do is we do here an object destructuring. If you don't know object destructuring, please check out my video, which you can find as well in the description box, understanding Chart.js object destructuring. What I will need here is the CTX. I guess we need the data. We can have here the chart area, and then in the chart area, not sure what we need, but we can see a top, bottom, left, right. And once we did that, I want to have a comma here and just say the configuration, because we want to have later on at the very end, we'll have still some extras that we need to make sure. Well, I'm not sure we're going to do that one, depending on if it works yes or no. Anyway, what we're going to do now is we want to start drawing the item here, and before I even continue on, I want to make sure that we have the positioning or the aspect ratio well set. So we're going to say aspect ratio. We're going to set this on 2. Right now, this is the only way to do it because we have space here for the labels. Of course, you could have the labels at the very top if you are on this item here, but that will be another time. Anyway, then you have this one. So for now, we have space here on the side where we can apply that. So once we did this, what I want to do here is start to draw. Basically, what I want to draw here is how do I get these circular shapes down to the bottom. For that, all we need to understand is how the positioning works. So for that, I'm going to say here console.log, I'm going to say here chart.getDataSet meta, and make sure you have dataset meta spelled correctly, dataset meta, index number 0 because it's the first data set, and you might say here why parentheses, because this is a function built in Chart.js. Then we're going to say here dot data, there's a 0, and we can say probably well, we can say here the x and y coordinates. If I do this, refresh, open up the developer tab, you can see here we get the value of 350. That will mean that this very point in the center here is the 350, and that is the center of this entire item, which is fine. But later on, we need to push that center down, and you will see that this becomes more. This is basically identical for data set number 1, which is the blue one. And if you look at that, same story. So what we could do here basically is this. Just going to grab this one and going to say here, all right, before I even push down, I want to make sure that you want to push down on the y variable, not on the x, because the x is a horizontal. So on the vertical value variable, so we're going to say here on the y, and this should be y as well, and probably it has a very similar, or, well, not similar, but it has a number as well. That's exactly in the center. If I would say here, this will be, let's say, 250, because right now it's 191. Let's see what happened. As you can see here, now something is happening, and we get reposition. This is important. I'm going to use this trick for our positioning here, but as we do this, you will see here that there's a cutoff percentage, or let's start to work on that. That's basically the cutoff percentage. So what I can say here, cut or cut out, we're going to say 0%. This is a string value, and put a comma. Let's save that, refresh. All right, that doesn't work here, but what we do need is the inner radius for that. So let me just show you. Let's solve that one first. Then we can say here console log, and we have this one here, but we can, let's say here this, if I would do only this, refresh, you will see here we get a lot of information, and this is the inner and outer radius. you can see here the inner radius, and the inner radius basically calculates where it starts. And what I want to do is it starts basically on whatever that value is. So we're going to say here dot inner radius, and the inner radius we can set it on 0. Let's put that in there and see what we get. Alright, as you can see here now, doesn't look like it changed, but you see there's an overlapping here. The green is now slightly bluish. So this is what I want, and I want to do this for all of them. So what I'm going to do here is for the very dataset number 1 and dataset number 2. Dataset index 0 can be skipped. Why? Because it is by default starting at the very center, or sorry, not even that one. I mean, this here index 0 should be, so it's 0 and 1. Let's do that one. As you can see here now, we have this red glow on here, or red hue. And you can see here, it is basically in the very center. So it understands it. Why for the last data set, you don't have to put it in because it starts at the very center, or it understands that. That's a given fact. Just for the other two, that looks like a donut because of the multi-level. So in the next video, we're going to push this down and make sure that this will look more appropriate.